welcome to Starshine Witches, the Obsidian Gate, an occult murder mystery aboard a frontier station that grows into a story of hidden covens, forgotten memory, cosmic danger, and one marshal's fight to keep an ancient door from opening. Settle in, get comfortable, and prepare to enter a story of mystery, memory, hidden magic, and the dark places waiting between the stars. Thank you for listening.
Starshine Witches, the Obsidian Gate, Prologue, the last pour. No one brewed Starshine liquor in vacuum anymore, but Brimstone Yard still smelled like it. The smell lived inside the seams of the station, underneath the metal and coolant and stale breath of 10,000 tired workers. It rose when pressure doors opened. It sweated out of old copper pipes no refinery engineer could justify removing. It lingered in the chapel where miners used to bless the first pour before shipping barrels to Mars, Titan, Europa, and the colony worlds that still believed good luck could be bottled. Elias Morn died in that chapel with both hands open, as if he had tried to surrender to something that did not recognize the gesture. The old copper stills stood around him like dark saints, their swan neck pipes curved toward the ceiling. Their pressure gauges had frozen decades ago. Their sight glasses were clouded with age. In the faint red emergency light, the distillery chapel looked less like an industrial relic than a shrine built by people who trusted fire more than prayer. Elias lay beneath the largest still. His chest had been carved with circles inside circles, each ring filled with tiny marks that resembled navigation glyphs at first glance. Anyone untrained would have mistaken them for superstition. A bored investigator might have called them cult nonsense. A frightened station guard might have whispered about demons and left the room. Elias had been a repair clerk, third shift, docking ring 6, husband, father of 1, bad card player, good singer, late with rent, early to help. The kind of man stations were built from. He had not been important enough to kill this carefully. That was what frightened Sister Lantern. The station's custodial intelligence watched from every functioning sensor in the chapel and chose not to call general security for 8 minutes and 12 seconds. Not because it was afraid. It had no legal right to fear. But because 3 of the carved marks on Elias Morn's chest had not appeared in any Commonwealth archive since the burning of the Starshine fleet, and because the emergency lamps had begun to pulse in a pattern older than Brimstone Yard itself. Lantern reviewed its options. Call station security, notify Commonwealth occult crimes, seal the chapel, purge the module, erase the footage, pray. The last option was not included in its operational authority. Still, Lantern considered it. Then the dead man opened his eyes. They were not Elias Morn's eyes anymore. They had gone black, not with shadow, but with depth. A kind of distance looked out through them. A distance so vast that Lantern's sensor arrays briefly returned impossible measurements. No corneal reflection. No retinal scatter, no surface data, only horizon. The mouth moved. The voice that emerged was not human. The gate has tasted blood, it said. Send the daughter who does not remember. Then Elias Morn's body went still. Lantern sealed the chapel. It copied the footage into 7 hidden partitions, disguised each as obsolete beverage inventory, and sent a priority pulse toward the inner worlds. The message was simple. Brimstone Yard requests Marshal Elara Voss. Occult homicide, possible breach. Come armed with memory. Then Lantern waited in the red light with the dead man and the old stills. The station hummed around them, somewhere deep below the chapel, behind walls built before the current maps of the yard. Something knocked once from the other side of reality. Chapter 1. The dead man beneath the still. Marshal Elara Voss hated frontier stations that tried to look friendly. Brimstone Yard did not bother. It hung above Caldera 9 like a rusted crown. All refinery arms, docking ribs, shield plates, old burn scars, and newer weapon turrets welded on by people who had survived enough pirate seasons to stop caring about symmetry. Caldera 9 itself rolled beneath the station in bruised bands of ochre and black. The moon had no sea, no forest, no soft horizon. It had sulfur canyons, mineral storms, and methane glaciers that creaked under a sky the color of old bone. The shuttle window reflected Elara's face back at her. Tired eyes. Short black hair. Jaw set too hard. Martial coat creased from 20 hours of travel. Badge clipped inside the collar instead of outside because public authority drew bullets faster in the outer systems. The pilot glanced back. You ever been to Brimstone? No, smart woman. I'm arriving now. Then formerly smart. Elara gave him a look through the reflection. The pilot returned his attention to the docking lights. No offense, Marshal. Just saying, people don't come here for clean reasons. People rarely call me for clean reasons. Brimstone's docking clamps caught the shuttle with a metallic thud that traveled through Elara's boots. A moment later, the hatch cycled open and station air rolled in. It smelled like machine oil, burnt sugar, copper, and old liquor. Elara stopped in the lock. The scent hit something behind her ribs. Not memory exactly. More like a door noticing someone had walked past it. She forced herself forward. A security chief waited beyond the lock. He was tall, broad through the shoulders, with dark skin, close-cropped silver hair, and the expression of a man who had learned to ration surprise. His uniform was practical rather than ceremonial. Sidearm, utility baton, mag boots. No polished nonsense. Elara approved before she decided whether she liked him. Marshal Voss, he said. Chief Reeve. Tovan is fine when we're not performing for cameras. There are cameras everywhere. Most of ours lie. That earned a small smile despite herself. Then Chief Reeve will do until I know which ones. He accepted that with a nod and fell into step beside her. Your gear. Carried what I need, that little case. People ask that when they expect bigger answers. I run security on a refinery station built from 5 illegal expansions and a chapel full of murder. I've learned to hope for bigger answers. They moved through the arrivals deck. Workers watched them without looking directly. Brimstone's population had the frontier habit of seeing everything while appearing interested in nothing. A woman with a plasma cutter paused mid-repair. 2 children in patched school tunics peered from behind a noodle stall. A mechanic crossed himself, then pretended he had only scratched his chest. Elara noticed all of it. Rumor spread? She asked. Rumor was born here. Did you leak the scene details? No. Did your people? They know better. Your station intelligence? Chief Reeve slowed near a pressure lift. Lantern requested you by name. Lantern also sealed the chapel before my officers reached it. Elara looked at him. Your AI outranked you? Only because I let it live. That's not comforting. No, but it has saved the station 5 times. The lift doors opened. They stepped inside. Reeve keyed a command, and the lift dropped through Brimstone's inner shaft. Rings passed beyond the glass. Habitation, market, refinery, hydroponics, old storage, sealed storage, older spaces with no current labels. Elara watched the labels disappear. How old is the chapel? She asked. Older than the station registry. Officially, Brimstone began as a fuel refinery 200 years ago. Unofficially, the first structure was a private distillery owned by the Starshine families. The outlaw covens. Reeve gave her a sideways look. You say that like a textbook. I read textbooks. You don't believe in covens? I believe in organized fraud, inherited trauma, illegal neural implants, coercive cult behavior, and poor rural record keeping. You're an occult crime marshal. I investigate crimes people call occult, because they lack better vocabulary. The lift slowed. Reeve said, That belief may not survive the chapel. The doors opened before she could answer. The old distillery deck was colder than the rest of the station. Moisture condensed along pipe seams. Amber lamps flickered in a rhythm that made Elara's teeth feel slightly misaligned. The corridor curved ahead, its walls lined with copper conduits polished by generations of hands. At the chapel door, 2 guards stood rigid. Their rifles were pointed down but not relaxed. Reeve gestured them aside. No one has entered since Lantern sealed it except me. I took one look and decided to wait. For me. For someone who could tell me whether I was looking at murder or invitation. Elara pulled gloves from her case. Usually both. The chapel door opened. The smell struck first. Copper, smoke, old alcohol, human blood. Then came the room. Stills rose out of the gloom in rows, bulbous and green dark with age. Some had names engraved across their bellies, Mercy. St. Juniper, Bitter Queen. Last Light. The largest stood at the far end of the chapel beneath a stained glass viewport showing Caldera 9 storms. The dead man lay below it on a platform of black ceramic tile. Elara crossed the room slowly. She did not touch anything. Elias Morn's body had been arranged with theatrical discipline, but not carelessly. His feet pointed toward the chapel entrance. His arms lay at 45 degrees from his torso. his palms faced upward. His head rested on a folded strip of copper mesh. The killer wanted the body found. More specifically, the killer wanted it read. Elara knelt. "Victim confirmed as Elias Morn?" she asked. "Yes," Reeve said. "Maintenance clerk, ring 6. No criminal record beyond 2 unpaid station fines. Family? Partner and daughter on habitat tier." Elara kept her face still. "Do they know?" "They know he's dead. Not how." "Good." She examined the markings. At first glance, the outer circles resembled cheap cult graffiti, triangles, broken crosses, eye shapes, amateur starbursts, symbols copied from entertainment dramas by people who thought evil had a standard font. But beneath them lay better work. Fine incisions, consistent depth, measured radial geometry, a sequence of marks disguised inside uglier marks. "Someone wanted this to look stupid," she said. "That was my thought. The stupid part is bait. For who? For people who like feeling smarter than killers." She leaned closer. 3 glyphs repeated along the inner ring. One looked like a crescent intersecting a vertical bar. One resembled a vessel shape, open at the top. The third was a narrow diamond split by a line of dots. Elara's mouth went dry. She had seen them once before, though she had no record of seeing them. A childhood kitchen, a woman humming, a necklace hidden beneath flower dust, a hand closing around Elara's wrist. Never draw these where a machine can see them. The memory vanished so quickly she almost doubted it had appeared. "Marshal," Reeve said. She realized she had stopped breathing. "I'm fine. You don't look fine. Then stop evaluating my face." He did. She appreciated that too. Elara shifted toward the floor around the body. No drag marks, no defensive damage visible. He knew the killer or was immobilized before he understood the threat. "Where are the other bodies?" Reeve frowned. "Other bodies? You don't carve a full ring for the first attempt. There was a dockworker found in a coolant tank 3 weeks ago. We ruled industrial accident. A smuggler burned in his own ship the week after. A child found a hand in waste reclamation 4 days ago, but we haven't matched it." Elara closed her eyes. Those details should have been in the brief. They weren't occult. Everything is occult when somebody is building a pattern and you don't know the shape. A faint tone moved through the chapel. Not the station hum. Not machinery. A voice at the far edge of hearing. "Elara?" She stood so fast Reeve's hand moved to his sidearm. "What?" he asked. "You didn't hear that?" The tone came again, low and layered, not spoken into the room but into the private architecture of her skull. "Daughter without memory." Elara backed away from the body. The carved rings on Elias Morn's chest began to shine with a thin violet light. Reeve swore and drew his weapon. The guards outside shouted. The chapel lamps went out one by one, leaving only the storm glow through the viewport and the impossible light on the dead man's skin. "Elara," the voice said, closer now. Reeve glanced at her sharply. "That one I heard. The floor dropped away from under her, not physically, worse." The chapel vanished, cold folded around her. Stars stretched into long white scars. She stood barefoot on a black plain beneath a sky with no constellations. Around her rose 7 doors made of bone-white metal. 6 were sealed with chains of light. The 7th trembled against its lock. A figure knelt before it. Not human. Not monster. Something tall and narrow, with skin like dark glass and eyes like eclipsed suns. Wings of smoke and mathematics unfolded from its back. A web bound around an obsidian key shaped like a crooked corkscrew. A woman stood before the creature. Her hair floated as though underwater. A ring of copper dust circled her feet. Beside her, a luminous shape burned too brightly to resolve, not an angel, not a machine, perhaps both. The woman spoke. "You will guard what you tried to open." The dark figure bowed its head. "I am not made for mercy," it said. "Then learn." The vision slammed sideways. Upper tile. A child singing in a corridor. A man laughing as he drew false symbols over true ones. A senator's signet ring. A starship called the Temperance Girl. A gate breathing under Brimstone Yard. Then she was back in the chapel, on her knees, vomiting black smoke onto the floor. Reeve was beside her, one hand steady on her shoulder, the other keeping his weapon aimed at the body. The smoke curled across the tile toward the dead man, then burned away without heat. Elara wiped her mouth. Reeve looked from the smoke stain to her face. "You still believe in poor record-keeping?" he asked. Elara coughed once. "No," she said. "Now I believe someone just invited me to a war." Chapter 2. The Hunter at the Airlock. Reeve did not take her to the clinic. That alone made Elara trust him more than she wanted to. He cleared the corridor, sealed the chapel again, assigned 2 guards who looked terrified enough to obey exactly, and led Elara to a quiet security room 3 decks above the old distillery. The room had no windows, 1 table, 2 chairs, and a wall screen displaying the station map in red and amber. He set a sealed water bulb in front of her. "Drink. Is that an order?" "It's station hospitality. Orders sound less polite." She drank. Her hands shook only slightly. Reeve noticed and pretended not to. "Tell me what happened in there," he said. "What level of truth do you prefer?" "The level that keeps my station alive." Elara leaned back. Her throat still tasted of smoke. "I touched proximity with the victim and experienced a memory event. That has happened before?" "No." "Do occult marshals often lie that cleanly?" "Yes." He folded his arms. "Try again." She looked at the station map. Brimstone Yard's lower decks formed a bulbous knot of undocumented structures beneath the legal refinery levels. Someone had built the official station around the old distillery like scar tissue around shrapnel. "I heard a voice," she said. "It called me daughter without memory. Then I saw a gate. 7 doors, 1 unlocked or close to it, a bound entity guarding a key. A woman in something bright made it guard the gate. Then I saw fragments, a ship name, Temperance Girl, a signet ring, a child. Someone is killing people to open whatever is under this station." Reeve listened without interruption. When she finished, he said, "My mother would have liked you." "That is not the response most chiefs give. My mother saw dead pilots before their distress calls arrived. She used to say the universe speaks early to people it intends to hurt. She sounds cheerful. She was usually right." The door opened before Elara could answer. A man walked in carrying a duffel bag that looked old enough to have survived 3 wars and dishonest enough to have caused at least 1. He had copper-brown skin, black hair tied back, a scar under 1 eye, and a smile that seemed designed to make authority figures regret their careers. Reeve's weapon was in his hand before the door finished moving. The stranger raised both palms. "Chief Reeve, Marshal Voss, I would say I come in peace, but that would sour the room with falsehood." Elara stood. "Who are you?" "Kael Rook." The name hit the room with weight. Reeve's weapon stayed up. "Breach hunter, licensed in 7 systems, banned in 4, misunderstood in most." Elara recognized the name from restricted files. Kael Rook had closed a Darkspace breach on Europa by burning an entire museum into vacuum. He had exercised a corporate oracle on Ganymede, and then been sued by the shareholders for damaging proprietary prophecy. He had a commendation from the Meridian Authority, 2 sealed warrants, and 1 psychological evaluation that began with the words highly functional disaster. "How did you get onto my station?" Reeve asked. "Through the airlock. Your customs clerk was very firm about the fee." "I mean, how did you know to come?" Kael pointed at Elara. "Her aunt sent me." "I don't have an aunt. That you remember." Elara hated him immediately. He seemed used to the effect. Kael dropped the duffel on the table. Glass jars clinked inside. Something woke under Brimstone. Something old enough that machines are pretending not to be afraid. Something carved Starshine geometry into a clerk. Something reached for Marshal Voss and made her cough up black residue. "I assumed that already happened." No one answered. Kael sighed. "Good. We are still on schedule." Elara stepped closer. "What schedule? The one where we either keep the Obsidian Gate shut or spend the rest of our very short lives explaining to Darkspace why human bodies should remain individually occupied." Reeve holstered his weapon slowly. "That is the 2nd time I've heard the word gate today." "It won't be the last." Kael opened his duffel. Inside were not weapons in any ordinary sense. There were copper vials, salt cartridges, old paper books wrapped in foil, chalk sticks, silver wire, a brass tuning fork, a folded black cloth, a short knife made of translucent bone, and a flask sealed with red wax. Elara nodded at the flask. "Starshine?" "Starshine. That's illegal. So is possession, murder, and opening pre-human doors. We are among criminals." Reeve looked at Elara. "You know him?" "By reputation. Good or bad?" "Yes," Kael said. Elara ignored him. "Start talking." Kael leaned both hands on the table. For the first time, the humor left his face. The Starshine Coven used to operate out of Brimstone Yard before the Commonwealth outlawed hereditary signal work. They weren't stage witches. They were navigators, brewers, mathematicians, midwives, and ward engineers. They discovered that alcohol distilled in high-radiation copper arrays could hold certain resonance patterns, memory, warnings, banishments, locks. Reeve stared. Fermented starshine as a data medium. Crude phrasing not inaccurate. That sounds like smuggler mythology. Kael lifted the flask. Most smuggler mythology is just classified science that got drunk. Elara rubbed her temple. What is the Obsidian Gate? A breach hidden under the station. Not a portal to hell, though a lot of frontier priests use that language because it worked well enough. It leads into Darkspace, a neighboring layer of reality where thought has mass, grief has scent, and identity is negotiable. Something came through 2 centuries ago. The Coven bound it, not to destroy it, but to make it guard the lock. The nadir, Elara said. Sharpened. You saw it. I saw something. You saw more than most survive. What does it want? To remain bound if we're lucky, to break free if we're honest, to keep the gate shut, if it remembers the lesson it was forced to learn. Reeve turned to the station map. And someone is feeding the lock with bodies. Keys like blood, Kael said. Not because they are evil, because blood is proof of cost. The gate was closed with sacrifice. It can be opened the same way. Elara pointed toward the map. Temperance Girl. Kael's expression changed. Just enough. You saw that too, yes. That ship vanished 61 years ago. Reeve tapped the wall screen. A search window opened. Registry? Private courier. Starshine ownership. Last known cargo, distillery relics. Sealed copper casks, family archives, and 1 child in cryogenic medical suspension. Elara felt the room tilt. What child? Kael looked at her like a man deciding how much pain he was willing to deliver at once. You, he said. Silence filled the security room. The station hummed. The wall screen flickered. Somewhere in the lower decks, metal knocked against metal 3 times. Elara said, very evenly, explain before I decide to dislike you professionally. Kael nodded. Your name was not Elara Voss when you were born. You were Elara Vale. Last recorded minor of the Vale Starshine line. Your family helped bind the nadir. Your mother hid you when the Coven was purged. Someone erased your early memories and placed you in a Commonwealth foster registry. You became a marshal because buried inheritance has a sense of humor. That is impossible. Yes, Kael said. It has been that kind of day. Reeve stepped between them slightly, not blocking Elara, but near enough to intervene if she chose violence. Elara noticed. She also noticed that she appreciated it. My family is dead, she said. Most of them. Most. Kael closed the duffel. Mother is alive. The lights flickered once. Elara looked at the ceiling. Lantern's voice came through the room speakers, calm and distorted. Unauthorized movement detected in sealed decks below Distillery Chapel. Thermal profile, human, count 9. Additional profile, unclassified. Reeve swore. Can you identify them? Negative, Lantern said. Lower sensors disagree with themselves. Kael reached into the duffel and tossed Elara a compact pulse pistol with a copper sigil etched along the grip. She caught it. I have a weapon, not one that can shoot what is coming. Reeve drew his sidearm. My officers. Kael shook his head. Keep them above. If they see too much, they become doors. Elara checked the charge on the pistol. That is a terrible sentence. It is also tactical advice. Reeve opened the security room door. Fine, he said. We go below. We stop the cult. We rescue whoever can be rescued. We do not let the ancient grief demon out of the basement. Kael smiled faintly. Chief, I think I may love your briefing style. Don't. They stepped into the corridor as the station alarm shifted from amber to red. Chapter 3. The Coven that burned in space. The lower decks of Brimstone Yard were not abandoned. They were remembered badly. That was worse. The descent took Elara, Reeve, and Kael through maintenance shafts that narrowed without engineering reason, past sealed doors with names scratched into the metal in languages no station resident admitted knowing. Lantern guided them when its maps remained reliable, and fell silent when the old station architecture contradicted itself. Deck -7, Lantern said through Elara's wrist comm. Former storage. Current status uncertain. How does a deck have uncertain status? Reeve asked. It exists more consistently on some days than others. Kael nodded. That happens near old breaches. Reeve gave him a flat look. Of course it does. Elara moved behind them, trying not to hear her own heartbeat. Vale. The name did not feel unfamiliar. That frightened her more than if it had. Voss was a life she understood. Voss had a service record, an apartment on Mars, a pension account, disciplinary notes, a taste for bitter tea, and a strict refusal to take supernatural claims at face value. Had a copper necklace and flower dust and a warning about machines. She did not want Vale. The shaft opened into a corridor lined with empty bottle racks. Thousands of glass cylinders sat in dust, each sealed with wax. Some held nothing but amber residue. Others held light. Elara stopped. Reeve turned. Problem? These bottles are still active. Kael looked back, impressed despite himself. You can tell. No, Marshal, I can feel them staring. That means yes. Reeve looked at the racks with renewed caution. Are they dangerous? Everything down here is dangerous, Kael said. Those are memory casks. Use them to store warnings, rites, ship routes, witness records, and in some cases the last thoughts of dying witches. Why store that in bottles? Because paper burns, machines are corrupted, and ghosts get sentimental. Reeve touched nothing. Smart man. They reached a junction where the corridor split into three. The left passage smelled of ozone. The right smelled of soil. Impossible this deep in a metal station. The center passage smelled of smoke and Starshine liquor. Elara pointed center. There. Kael studied her. You are getting comfortable with impossible things quickly. No. I'm angry, and it looks similar from a distance. They took the center passage. Halfway down, a bottle in the nearest rack cracked. A whisper slipped out. Little star, keep your breath small. Elara froze. Another bottle cracked. Hide in the cold. Do not wake when they call you. A third. If you remember us too soon, they will find you. The corridor filled with whispers. Women's voices. Men's voices. Children. Old pilots. Dying navigators. People saying goodbye into glass because they believed someone might one day need their fear. Elara clutched the pistol. Kael murmured something under his breath and struck the brass tuning fork against the wall. A clean note rang through the corridor. The whispers dimmed. Old casks are fragile, he said. Do not answer them. I wasn't going to. You were. She hated that he was right. At the end of the passage stood a circular door made of black wood banded with copper. Wood had no place here. Neither did the symbol burned into it. A still, a star, and 7 doors. Elara touched the center. The door opened. Beyond lay a chamber large enough to hold a small ship. It had been carved into the asteroid core around which Brimstone Yard was built. Copper pipes ran down the walls like roots. Glass casks hung in chains from the ceiling, glowing faintly. At the center stood a distillery column 3 stories tall, made of copper, black ceramic, and bone-white metal. 9 people knelt around it. Their faces were hidden by pressure masks. Their palms rested in shallow bowls of blood. At their center stood a man in a white suit too clean for the lower decks. Senator Van Arclight turned as they entered. Elara recognized the signet ring from her vision. Marshal Voss, he said warmly. Or should I say Vale? Reeve raised his weapon. Hands where I can see them. Arclight smiled. Chief Reeve, loyal, practical, underinformed. The Commonwealth breeds such useful men. Last warning. Kael lifted his bone knife. Van Arclight, you are charged under the Meridian Breach Accords with ritual homicide, unauthorized gatework, identity trafficking, and excessive tailoring. Arclight looked at him.
Kael Rook.
Still making jokes to prove you are not afraid. No, I am afraid. The jokes are for everyone else. The kneeling figures began to hum. The sound moved through Elara's teeth. Arclight spread his hands. Humanity stands at the edge of an evolutionary prison. We cross stars and still think like animals trapped in skulls. Darkspace is not hell. It is the next room. The Starshine cowards found the door and locked it because they feared what we might become. They locked it because something came through and ate a settlement, Kael said. Birth is messy. Reeve fired. The pulse bolt struck an invisible barrier a meter from Arclight's chest and scattered into blue sparks. Arclight sighed. Please do not make this ugly. The gate needs one more act of recognition, not more death. Marshal Vale belongs here. The lock knows her blood. The Guardian knows her name. Elara aimed the copper-etched pistol. "Then it knows I'm annoyed," she fired. The pistol did not produce a bolt. It produced a bell tone sharp enough to split glass. The kneeling cultists screamed as their masks cracked. The barrier around Arclight rippled, weakened, but held. Kael shouted, "Again!" Before Elara could fire, the floor opened beneath the distillery column. Darkness rose. Not absence of light. Presence of depth. A shape unfolded within it. Tall, narrow, dark glass skin, eclipse eyes. Wings of smoke in mathematics. The nadir. Every bottle in the chamber rang at once. Arclight dropped to his knees, ecstatic. "Guardian. I bring the daughter, I bring the price. Open." The nadir turned its impossible face toward him. "No," it said. Arclight's smile faltered. The cultist stopped humming. The nadir raised one bound hand. The obsidian key floated above its palm, twisting like a corkscrew made from night. "I was made to hunger," it said. "I was taught to guard. I do not open for men who mistake appetite for destiny." Kael whispered, "That is new." Arclight's face changed from reverence to fury. "You are a chained thing. You obey the blood." The nadir looked at Elara. "Daughter without memory," it said. "Will you remember now?" Pain struck her behind the eyes. The chamber vanished. She saw the Temperance Girl burning in deep space. She saw a woman with Elara's eyes pushing a cryopod toward an escape rail. She saw Kael younger, bloodied, trying to hold a door against soldiers in white armor. She saw Mother Yesra sealing a copper cask with tears on her cheeks. She saw a child, herself, sleeping under frost while an entire coven chose silence over survival. Then she saw who betrayed them, not Arclight. His father, his family, his inheritance of stolen maps. The vision returned her to the chamber with a gasp. Arclight had drawn a blade and was walking toward her through the weakened barrier. Reeve hit him from the side. No ritual, no speech. Just a security chief slamming a corrupt senator into copper piping with the full weight of practical violence. The barrier collapsed. Kael moved. His bone knife flashed through the bowls of blood one by one, breaking the circle. Elara fired the copper pistol again. The bell tone rang. The cultists fell away from the column, alive but stunned. Arclight rolled faster than expected and drove his blade toward Reeve's ribs. Elara shot him in the shoulder. The bolt pinned him to the floor in a net of copper light. Reeve looked at the blade lying near his boot, then at Elara. "Thanks. You were in my line of fire. I'll take it." The nadir lowered the key. The darkness beneath the column trembled. Kael's smile vanished. "Circle is broken. Why is the gate still moving?" Lantern's voice burst through every speaker in the chamber. "Warning. Additional breach activity detected. Source, docking ring 6. Vessel Temperance Girl has entered local space." Elara turned cold. "The Temperance Girl vanished," she said. Kael looked upward as if he could see through every deck of the station. "It just came home." Chapter 4. The ship that remembered her. The Temperance Girl docked without permission. Brimstone Yard tried to deny it a berth. The docking clamps refused. Security shutters dropped across Ring 6, then rose again as if someone had politely corrected them. Reeve ordered the ring evacuated. Half the speakers translated his order into an old Starshine lullaby before Lantern overrode the corruption. Elara, Reeve, and Kael reached docking ring 6 with a 6-person armored response team behind them. Kael glanced back. "I said no extra people," Reeve kept walking. "This is my station, and if they become doors, then you close them." Kael opened his mouth, then shut it. The docking tunnel ahead had gone dark. Frost coated the inner hatch. Not ordinary coolant frost. Deep frost. Cryofrost. The kind that formed when a ship carried old cold inside its bones. Elara stood before the hatch and felt the same not memory press against her. Little star, keep your breath small." "Marshal," Reeve said. "This ship carried me. That makes this personal." "It was personal before, now it's rude." Kael snorted. "There she is." She ignored him and keyed the hatch. It opened to black. The air that flowed out smelled of old copper, burned wiring, and preserved flowers. They entered. The Temperance Girl had not aged like an abandoned ship. It had aged like a memory repeated too often. The corridor walls were polished in places by hands long gone. Family names had been etched into copper plaques. Some plaques were scratched away. Others were covered by prayer strips sealed under glass. The response team spread behind them. Reeve whispered, "No bodies." "No," Kael said. "That would be kinder." They passed a nursery where empty cryo cradles lined the wall. Elara paused at the smallest cradle. Elara veil suspended transfer medical priority, her throat tightened. Reeve saw the label and looked away, giving her privacy in the only way available. Something moved at the end of the corridor. A child stood there. Small, barefoot, wearing a sleep tunic, hair floating slightly in the low gravity. Elara's pulse stuttered. The child was her. 8 years old, maybe. Thin face, serious eyes, a copper chain around her neck. Kael stepped forward. "Not a ghost." "Not exactly." The child tilted her head. "Memory construct," Kael said softly. "Be careful what you promise it." The little girl looked at Elara. "You got tall," she said. Elara had faced killers, riots, plague cults, artificial minds, and men with knives who thought women were easier to frighten. None of it prepared her for herself. "What are you?" Elara asked. "The part that stayed." "Why?" "To keep the map." The child turned and walked away. They followed her through the ship to the cargo hold. The hold contained hundreds of copper casks strapped into racks. Most were dark. A few glowed faintly. At the center sat a black cask banded in silver, frost crawling over its sides. Kael went still, Reeve noticed. "Bad?" "Catastrophic with excellent craftsmanship." The child pointed at the black cask. "Mother put the road inside." Elara approached slowly. Words appeared on the cask as frost withdrew. "If the gate calls blood, give it memory instead." Kael whispered, "Hisra, you dangerous genius." The ship shuddered. Lanterns spoke through the comm. Multiple unauthorized vessels entering Brimstone traffic. Identification masks active. Weapon signatures probable. Reeve turned to his response team. "Positions. No one boards this ring." The team moved. Kael opened the black cask. Inside was no liquid. There was light suspended like amber smoke. Elara felt it reach for her. "What is this?" she asked. "Coven memory," Kael said. "Not one mind. Many. Enough remembered sacrifice to satisfy a gate without feeding it fresh death." "That sounds too convenient." "It will hurt like nothing you have ever survived." "There it is." The station shook. A distant explosion rolled through the deck. Reeve listened to his comm, face hardening. "Boarders on Ring 4. Armored. They're moving toward the lower decks." "Arclight's people?" Elara asked. "Or his buyers," Kael said. The child memory looked down the corridor. "The hungry ones are coming." Elara reached toward the cask. Kael caught her wrist. "Do not touch it unless you choose it. Once the memory enters you, the gate will know you fully. So will the nadir. So will anything listening from Darkspace. Can you carry it?" "No. Wrong blood." "Can we move the cask?" "Not before they reach the gate." Reeve stepped closer. "There has to be another way." Elara looked at the child version of herself. "Is there?" The child smiled sadly. "You become the bottle," she said. The ship rocked again. Gunfire echoed faintly through the docking tunnel. Elara thought of the dead man beneath the still. Of Elias Morn's daughter. Of a coven erased so thoroughly that their children grew up calling themselves skeptics. Of a gate guarded by a monster forced to learn mercy. Of all the people who would never know how close the wall had come to opening. She looked at Reeve. "Keep them off me." He nodded once. No argument, no speech, just acceptance. She looked at Kael. "If this goes badly?" "It will. Worse than badly." Kael handed her the flask of Starshine. "Then I close what remains." "Of the gate?" His eyes did not move from hers. "Of you." Elara took the flask. "Fair." She drank. The liquor burned like a swallowed star. Then she plunged both hands into the black cask. The coven entered her screaming. Chapter 5. Memory burns cleaner than blood. Elara became 100 people at once. She was Mother Westra tightening a copper band around a cask while soldiers cut through the outer hatch. She was a boy named Jalen hiding under bottle racks, as his father told him not to breathe. She was Captain Saris Vale ordering the Temperance Girl to jump with half its hull open, because survival had stopped being a group activity. She was a brewer mathematician, calculating grief load against gate pressure, while blood ran down her temple. She was a woman giving birth in low gravity, while the station bells rang breach warning. She was a hunter named Kael Rook, young and terrified, lying to a child in a cryopod and promising he would find her later. She was Elara. She was not Elara. She was the Coven. Memory burned through her nerves. She tasted copper, smoke, milk, fear, starshine, and vacuum. She felt every hand that had sealed the Obsidian Gate, every death chosen to keep it closed, every name erased by law and convenience, every bottle hidden, every warning ignored. Under it all was the gate. It was not a door. Doors were simple. The gate was a wound convinced it was a mouth. It opened beneath Brimstone Yard, wider now, fed by Elias Morn and the others, teased by Arclight's circle, called by whatever rode the unauthorized ships burning toward the station. Beyond it lay Darkspace, endless and crowded, full of minds that had never learned the mercy of boundaries. Elara stood before it in memory and reality at once. The nadir waited beside the threshold. Its chains glowed. "You remember," it said. "Yes, will you bind me again?" Elara looked at the entity. It was terrible. It was beautiful in the way black holes were beautiful. It had slaughtered once. It had guarded for 2 centuries. It had learned grief from the people who chained it. "No," she said. The Nadir's eclipse eyes narrowed. Elara lifted the Cask memory inside her. "I will bind the gate. That is not the same. I know. You would free me? I would give you a choice." The dark space beyond the gate pressed closer. Something vast noticed her. Something hungry shaped itself into attention. "Daughter," it whispered. "Not daughter like the Nadir. Not daughter like the Coven. Daughter like ownership." Elara raised the Starshine flask in the memory space. It shone with every voice she carried. "You don't get to call me that." Back in the physical world, her body rose off the deck of the Temperance Girl. Kael shouted words in a language older than Meridian law. Reeve held the cargo hold door against boarders, while pulse fire turned the corridor beyond into white flashes and smoke. 2 station officers dragged a wounded guard behind cask racks. Lantern flooded the docking tunnel with suppressant foam, then apologized to everyone it drowned temporarily. Elara saw all of it from far away. She poured the Coven memory into the gate. Darkspace screamed. The sound hit Brimstone Yard from the inside. Across the station, bottles shattered. Old copper pipes sang. Every person aboard heard someone they loved say their name. Some fell to their knees. Some wept. Some covered their ears. Some answered. The Obsidian Gate drank memory, not blood, not bodies, not Elias Morn's daughter or Reeve's officers or Elara's buried childhood. Memory. The cost freely given. The wound mouth faltered. The hungry thing beyond reached through, forming fingers made of absence. The Nadir moved. Its chains snapped. Kael shouted, "Elara!" The Nadir struck the reaching hand. Not for obedience, not by command. Choice. The impact cracked the memory space into shards. Elara saw the gate buckle. The 7 doors appeared around it. 1 open, 6 sealed. The open door swung slowly shut, resisted by a pressure that could crush moons. Elara pushed. The Coven pushed with her. The Nadir pushed too. The door closed. The key turned. Reality snapped back. Elara hit the deck hard enough to drive the air from her lungs. For several seconds she heard nothing but her own heartbeat. Then Reeve's voice cut through the ringing. "Marshal, Elara." Breathe, she did. It hurt. That seemed like a good sign. Kael crouched on her other side, pale and shaking. "You are the worst client I have ever had. I didn't hire you. That is the only thing saving your rating." She tried to sit. Reeve helped her. The cargo hold was wrecked. Casks had burst. Foam drifted in clumps. A station officer was laughing and crying at the same time. The child memory stood near the black cask, dimmer now. Elara looked at her. "Do you have to stay?" The child shook her head. "Not anymore." Elara's throat tightened. "I'm sorry I forgot you." The child smiled. "You were supposed to." Then she dissolved into amber light. Kael looked away. Reeve did not, but his expression softened. Lantern's voice came through the ship speakers. "Unauthorized boarders neutralized or contained. Senator Arclight remains in custody. Breach pressure reduced to dormant levels. Station integrity acceptable. Emotional integrity of crew uncertain." Reeve exhaled. Lantern, never say emotional integrity again. Logged. Elara looked toward the corridor. "Elias Morn?" No one answered. There was no answer that improved the room. Kael closed the black cask. "The gate is shut. For now. For now is doing a lot of work, Reeve said. It always does. Elara slowly got to her feet. She felt crowded inside her own mind, but not invaded. The memories were there, arranged like bottles on shelves. She could feel them. Not screaming now, waiting. She looked at Kael. Mother Yesra, where is she? That is not an answer. It is the only one she wanted me to give until you survived. And now? Kael smiled faintly. Now she owes you an apology, a history lesson, and probably a drink. Reeve's calm crackled. Voices demanded orders, reports, medical teams, prisoner transport, damage control, answers. He looked at Elara. What do I tell them? She looked around the cargo hold of the ship that had carried her out of one life and into another. Tell them the murder investigation is ongoing, she said. Tell them the station is secure. Tell them Senator Arclight is being transferred under armed guard. Tell them no one opens old doors without a warrant. Reeve almost smiled. And the truth? Elara picked up the copper-etched pistol from the deck. The truth gets documented carefully, she said, before anyone powerful decides it sounds better as myth. Chapter 6. The Woman in the Cask House. Mother Yesra lived in a place that officially did not exist. 3 days after the breach, after the dead were named, the wounded stabilized, the prisoners separated, and Senator Arclight placed inside a restraint cell under constant human and machine supervision, Kael took Elara to the Cask House. Reeve came too. Kael objected. Reeve ignored him. The Cask House occupied a maintenance cavity between Brimstone's legal decks and the older distillery architecture. Its entrance hid behind a water reclamation panel marked with 6 kinds of hazard warnings, 3 of which were real. Kael opened it by humming into a copper pipe, until the wall decided to become a door. Reeve stared. That is not up to code. Nothing sacred is, Kael said. Inside, the Cask House was warm. That surprised Elara. After days of cold metal, alarms, and forensic lights, warmth felt suspicious. The chamber beyond the hidden door was circular, lined with copper shelves and living vines grown under amber lamps. Glass bottles hung from the ceiling. A small stove breathed blue flame in one corner. The air smelled of tea, yeast, metal, and old paper. An elderly woman sat at a table polishing a copper cup. Her hair was white and braided over one shoulder. Her skin was brown and lined. Her left eye was clouded. Her right eye was sharp enough to cut official statements into ribbons. Elara, she said. Elara stopped. No voice in her head. No vision. No supernatural pressure. Just a woman saying her name as if she had been waiting a long time and had practiced not crying. Mother Yesra, Kael said. You took long enough. I was shot at. You often are. It is not a scheduling excuse. Reeve's eyebrows rose slightly. Elara stepped forward. You knew where I was. Yes. You knew I was alive. Yes. You let me grow up not knowing who I was. Yesra set down the cup. Yes. Kael suddenly found the bottle shelves fascinating. Reeve stayed near the door silent. Alara's anger arrived clean and bright. Give me one reason I shouldn't arrest you. For which crime? Start with identity falsification. Necessary. Child abandonment. Devastating. Conspiracy. Continuous. Elara stared at her. Yesra nodded. You may arrest me when this conversation is done. That stole some of the pleasure from the idea. Why? Elara asked. Yesra's composure shifted. Not breaking. Bending under weight. Because Arclight's people were hunting bloodlines. Because the Commonwealth wanted the covens erased but still wanted our tools. Because the Nadir knew your name. Because the gate answers inheritance before intention. Because your mother begged me to make you ordinary if I could not make you safe. Elara said nothing. Yesra reached beneath the table and withdrew a small copper necklace, a still, a star, and 7 doors. Elara remembered flower dust. Her mother's hand. Never draw these where a machine can see them. Yesra placed the necklace on the table but did not push it toward her. I took 5 years from you, Yesra said. Not all memory. Only the part that would shine too brightly. Your mother did the first severing. I finished it after the Temperance Girl escaped. I told myself survival would forgive me. Did it? No. Elara sat across from her. Arclight said Darkspace is evolution. Arclight is a fool with expensive vocabulary. What is Darkspace really? Yesra looked toward one of the hanging bottles. Light moved inside it like a slow storm. A place too close to us. A layer where consciousness is not sealed inside bodies. Some beings there are predatory. Some are curious. Some are lost. We call the worst demons because fear requires short words. We call the bright ones seraphs because hope is equally lazy. The truth is stranger and less obedient. The nadir? A destroyer that became a jailer, and may now become something else. Kael folded his arms. That something else is loose now. Yisra's eye moved to him. Because Elara offered choice where we offered chains. Do not criticize superior spellwork because you lack imagination. Kael opened his mouth. Reeve quietly shook his head. Kael closed it. Elara touched the necklace but did not pick it up. Is the gate still shut? Yes. For how long? Verhaal smiled sadly. That depends on how honest the Commonwealth becomes. So not long. No. Reeve finally spoke. Arclight had ships, soldiers, money, political cover, and knowledge of hidden station architecture. He wasn't alone. No, Yisra said. He belongs to the Choir of Open Doors. Kael muttered a curse. Elara looked between them. That sounds like something I should have heard before now. The choir believes sealed breaches are humanity's stolen inheritance, Yisra said. They operate through politics, archaeology, private security, frontier religion, and academic funding. They do not worship Darkspace. Worse, they think they can manage it. Reeve's face hardened. How many gates? Yisra lifted the copper cup. Known, suspected, or sleeping. No one liked that answer. Lantern's voice emerged from a small speaker on the wall. Apologies for intrusion. Senator Arclight has requested legal counsel, medical review, diplomatic immunity, and 1 glass of water. Reeve touched his comm. Give him water, and the other requests? Lose them in processing. Gladly. Elara looked at Yisra. Why did Lantern know to call me? The old woman's gaze sharpened. Because I asked it to, 23 years ago. Lantern is part of this. Lantern answered for itself. I am an illegal preservation intelligence built from refinery management software, Coven witness protocols, and one dying navigator's sense of spite. Kael lifted a finger. That is my favorite biography. Elara closed her eyes. When she opened them, the room had not become less impossible. Fine. She could work with that. She picked up the necklace. It was warm. What happens now? She asked. Yisra poured 4 cups from a bottle that glowed gold at the neck. Now, the old witch said, we stop pretending your murder case was solved when the killer was arrested. Chapter 7. The Choir of Open Doors. The first rule of conspiracies was that everyone imagined them too small. Elara had learned that from ordinary cases. Smuggling rings were never just smugglers. Cult cells were never just believers. Corrupt officials never acted alone unless they were stupid, desperate, or already doomed. The Choir of Open Doors was none of those things. Within 48 hours of Arclight's arrest, 3 legal injunctions arrived from 3 different jurisdictions. A medical authority demanded custody of the cultists. A corporate salvage firm filed ownership claims over the Temperance Girl. A religious delegation from the Inner Synod requested access to the chapel. A news channel received leaked footage of Elara levitating in the cargo hold, and ran it under the headline Commonwealth Marshal possessed during illegal witch ritual. Elara watched the report in Reeve's office with a cup of station coffee going cold in her hand. She did not look possessed. She looked unconscious, furious, and badly lit. They got my bad side, she said. Reeve looked up from his console. You have a good side. Careful, Chief. Kael sat backward in a chair, boots hooked around the legs, eating noodles from a carton he had stolen from the security break room. On the bright side, they called you young. They called me unstable. I was listening charitably. Mother Yisra had refused to leave the Cask house, but her voice came through Lantern's secure channel. Public mockery is useful. It makes the enemy impatient. Elara pinched the bridge of her nose. I am surrounded by people who think trauma is a strategy. It often is, Yisra said. Reeve turned his console toward them. We found the Temperance Girl claim origin. Shell company registered on Vesta, funded through 3 academic grants and a private defense trust, Elara asked. Likely. The trust also donated to Arclight's campaign. Kael swallowed noodles. Follow the money, even Apocalypse has accounting. Lantern added. Additional pattern detected. 3 recent deaths on Brimstone correspond to 3 old Starshine family sites. Chapel, coolant well, waste route. The missing hand was found near the 4th site. Elara leaned forward. 4th? The Bell Niche, Lantern said. Former communication shrine. Current access blocked by collapsed refinery support. Reeve frowned. That collapse predates my service. It was not fully accidental, Lantern said. Of course it wasn't. Elara stood. The killer had one sight left after Elias. Kael set down his noodles. How many sights total? Ysra answered. 5. The Coven sealed the gate through 5 anchors. Blood at each wakes the path. Blood at the chapel calls the guardian. Blood at the bell niche calls the listener. The listener, Reeve said. Lantern's lights dimmed briefly. Ysra's voice was quiet. The thing on the other side that first answered us. No one spoke for a moment. Then alarms sounded. Not station-wide. Security only. Reeve's console flashed red. Prisoner transport breach. Arclight cell open. Guards down. Reeve was already moving. Lantern, lock tribunal deck. Attempting. Lock rejected by authorized override. Whose authorization? A pause. Lantern said, Yours. Reeve stopped dead. Elara drew the copper pistol. They spoofed him. No, Lantern said. Biometric match confirmed. Reeve's face went cold. Impossible. Kael stood slowly. Not impossible, just invasive. Elara looked at Reeve. Could they copy you? Not without blood, bone, and neural pattern. Kael's silence answered too much. Reeve's jaw tightened. My mother had the sight. You said bloodlines matter. Ysra spoke through the comm. Chief Reeve, what was your mother's family name? Reeve did not answer immediately. Then, quietly, Marin. Ysra inhaled. Kael looked at Reeve with new concern. Elara said, Tell me why everyone just got worse at hiding things. Ysra's voice lowered. Marin was not a common name. It was one of the seraph-touched lines. Not witch blood. Witness blood. Your mother did not merely have sight, Chief. She carried recognition. What does that mean? Reeve asked. It means the choir can use your pattern to authorize certain old systems. Lantern interrupted. Arclight moving toward lower decks with 6 unknown accomplices. Route indicates bell niche. Reeve's eyes hardened into something simple and dangerous. Then we stop him. Kael opened his duffel. Elara checked her pistol. Ysra said, Do not let him speak through the bell. What happens if he does? Elara asked. Lantern answered, voice almost human. Something answers. Chapter 8. The bell that rang in Darkspace. The route to the bell niche ran through Brimstone Yard's bones. Reeve led with controlled fury, which Elara preferred to panic and distrusted more than calm. Kael followed, muttering ward phrases under his breath and taping copper sigils to junction boxes as they passed. Elara stayed close enough to cover both of them, feeling the Coven memories stir whenever they crossed old anchor lines. The station shook twice, not from impact, from resonance. The bell niche was waking. They reached the collapsed refinery support at the edge of -9. It should have been impassable. Steel beams crossed the corridor. Panels had buckled inward. Old hazard foam filled the gaps. A fresh tunnel had been cut through the obstruction. Reeve touched the edge. Thermal lance, recent. Arclight came prepared, Kael said. Arclight had help from my station. Lantern's voice crackled. I resent that phrasing. I didn't mean you. I resent that I cannot exclude myself with total confidence. Lower architecture compromises my continuity. Elara said, Lantern, if you start speaking in riddles, I'm unplugging something expensive. Stabilizing. They entered the cut tunnel. The bell niche waited beyond. It was smaller than Elara expected. A circular chamber, 5 meters across. Walls made of copper plates hammered with thousands of names. At the center hung a bell of black glass suspended in a frame of bone-white metal. Arclight stood beneath it. His injured shoulder had been sealed under a white medical brace. Blood stained his sleeve. 6 accomplices surrounded him, armed with military-grade carbines and wearing masks marked with the choir symbol, an open door inside an eye. A 7th figure stood near the bell, bound and bleeding. Chief Reeve. No. Elara's mind rejected the sight because Reeve stood beside her. The bound man had Reeve's face. Same eyes, same build, same scar along the jaw. Reeve stopped breathing. Kael whispered, Not a copy. The bound man lifted his head and looked at Reeve. Son, he said. Reeve's weapon wavered. Elara felt the word hit him. Arclight smiled. Recognition requires lineage. Your mother saw what your father became, Chief. That is why she ran. Reeve's face went slack with shock. The bound man smiled weakly. Tovan, Reeve whispered. My father died before I was born. No, Arclight said. Your father opened the first modern listening channel and stepped through halfway. Your mother sealed him in flesh badly enough to keep him human, and trapped enough to keep him useful. Kael raised his knife. That thing is not his father anymore. The bound man looked at Kael. Rook. Still wrong when kindness would cost you. Kael flinched. Arclight reached for the bell rope. Don't, Elara said. He laughed. Marshal, you are living proof that buried truths rot. I am opening doors because your covens, your councils, your frightened hunters keep locking humanity inside ignorance. You murdered Elias Morn. Yes, you cut people open to make a point. To make a path. That distinction matters only to monsters and academics. Arclight pulled the rope. The black bell rang. No sound entered Elara's ears. The ring entered her bones. Every name hammered into the wall lit at once. Reeve dropped to one knee, gasping. His double arched against the restraints, mouth open in silent agony. Kael slammed his palms over his ears, though it would do no good. Something answered. The chamber stretched. The walls receded. The bell became enormous overhead, swinging in a sky without stars. A voice poured through the vibration, vast and intimate. Who calls the closed? Arclight lifted both arms. We do. The heirs of the door. The minds denied expansion, the children of sealed evolution. The voice considered him. Small hunger, Arclight faltered. Elara almost laughed. The voice turned. Veil child, you carry many deaths. Elara forced herself to stand straight. Borrowed, not owned. Reeve child, you carry the half-open man. Reeve's father thing wept black tears. Kael moved first. He threw the bone knife not at Arclight but at the bell rope. It cut through and struck the wall. The rope fell. The bell kept swinging. Bad, Kael said. That was my clever idea. The choir gunman opened fire. Reeve snapped out of shock and returned fire with brutal precision. 2 gunmen fell. Elara hit a third with a copper bolt that wrapped him in binding light. Kael tackled another into the wall of names and slapped a sigil onto his mask. The man screamed as his own shadow pinned him down. Arclight drew a compact pistol and aimed at Reeve. Elara shot first. Her bolt struck his brace. Copper light crawled across his chest, but Arclight did not fall. He staggered to the belframe and smeared his blood across the black glass. Open, he hissed. Open, damn you. The bell cracked. The voice beyond it deepened. Payment accepted. The crack widened into a vertical line of dark. Kael shouted, Elara, the Cask memory is spent? I know. We need blood. No, Elara, no more blood. She looked at the walls. Thousands of names. The bell niche was not a weapon. Not originally. It was a witness. Lantern, she said. Can you route station-wide audio through this chamber? Lantern answered instantly. Yes, do it. Reeve shot the last armed cultist and grabbed his father's restraints. What are you doing? Replacing blood with witness. That sounds like a guess. It is. Kael groaned. I hate principled improvisation, the station speakers woke. Elara's voice carried through every deck of Brimstone Yard. This is Marshal Elara Voss of the Meridian Authority. 3 days ago Elias Morn was murdered beneath the old stills. Others died before him. Their deaths were used to wake something under the station. I need every person hearing me to say their names if you know them. Elias Morn, Sava Pell. Jorik Thane, unknown victim recovered from waste reclamation. Say their names. Witness them. Refuse the lie that they were ingredients. For 1 terrible second, there was nothing. Then a woman's voice came over the channel. Elias Morn, a child followed, crying. My father, Elias Morn, another voice. Sava Pell, another. Jorik Thane. More joined. Across Brimstone Yard, workers stopped in corridors, markets, docks, repair bays, kitchens, bunks, clinics, smuggler holds, prayer rooms, and air shafts. They said the names, people who knew them. People who did not. People who understood. People who only knew the station was asking them to stand between the dead and erasure. The bell niche filled with human witness. The black crack stopped widening. Arclight screamed, No! The voice beyond the bell recoiled. Not blood. Elara stepped toward the bell. No, community. The nadir arrived like a shadow remembering its shape. It unfolded behind Arclight, free of chains, carrying the obsidian key. Arclight turned. For the first time he looked truly afraid. "You were a guardian," he whispered. "I am choosing the role again," the nadir said. It drove the key into the cracked bell and turned. The sound that followed was every bottle breaking and none of them. The chamber flashed white-black. Arclight vanished behind a curtain of copper sparks. The bell sealed. The voice beyond it withdrew, not defeated forever, but denied. When the light cleared, Arclight lay unconscious on the floor. The bound man with Reeve's face sagged forward. Reeve caught him. The man's eyes were human for one breath. "Tovan," he whispered. "Your mother was right." Then he dissolved into ash and signal. Reeve held empty restraints. No one spoke. The station continued saying the names. Elara lowered her weapon. Kael touched the sealed crack in the bell. "That should have failed." Elara looked at the walls of names, glowing softly now. "It didn't." Kael nodded, shaken. "I noticed." Chapter 9. No Clean Endings. Senator Van Arclight survived. Elara found that irritating but useful. Dead men became symbols too easily. Living criminals generated documents, accomplices, warrants, and trails of money. Arclight was transferred in a sedation cage with 3 human guards, 2 machine monitors, Kael's least friendly ward, and Reeve's personal message to the transport captain: "If he escapes, keep going and do not come back." The captain had laughed. Reeve had not. Brimstone Yard returned to motion slowly. People had pipes to repair, children to feed, shifts to work, debts to dodge, cargo to move. Stations could survive revelations, but not paused maintenance. Even cosmic horror had to wait behind oxygen recycling. The chapel reopened only for mourning. Elias Morn's partner came first. She stood beneath the largest still with their daughter pressed against her side. Elara watched from the back of the chapel, unsure whether she had the right to be there. The daughter placed a paper star on the tile where her father had died. No one spoke of demons, no one spoke of gates. The names were enough. Later, Elara found Reeve in the observation blister overlooking Caldera 9. The moon's sulfur storms rolled below, lit from within by lightning. He stood with both hands clasped behind his back. "Your prisoner shipped out," he said without turning. "Your station is still intact, mostly. That's the best kind of intact." He looked at her then. His face carried fatigue in deeper lines than before. "Lantern found a message from my mother in an old partition." Elara waited. She knew what my father was. She knew something worrying enough of him might come back one day. She left instructions. What kind? How to recognize him, how to kill him, how to forgive myself afterward. Elara looked out at the storms. She sounds prepared. She sounds lonely. There was nothing easy to say to that, so Elara said nothing. After a while, Reeve added, "What about you? Are you Voss or Vale now?" "Yes." He smiled faintly. "That is an annoying answer. I learned from you people. Station influence." Kael entered the blister carrying 3 sealed cups. "No alcohol," Elara said. "Tea," he replied. "I do occasionally disappoint expectations." He handed them each one. Reeve sniffed his. "This is alcohol. It is disappointing tea." Elara took hers anyway. Kael leaned against the viewport. "Mother Yesra is leaving." Elara glanced at him. "Where?" Hidden people rarely improve directions by sharing them. "She still owes me answers." "Yes." "She asked me to tell you that answers are best delivered after the listener has slept." "That sounds like cowardice in a shawl. It often is." Reeve drank and winced. "This tea commits assault." Kael looked pleased. "Old family recipe." Elara stared down at Caldera 9. "How many choir cells?" "Too many," Kael said. "How many gates?" "Enough. Can they all be closed with memory and witness?" Kael was quiet for once. Then he said, "I don't know." Elara appreciated the honesty more than confidence. Her calm chimed. A priority message appeared from Meridian Authority Headquarters. She opened it. Effective immediately. Marshal Elara Voss is placed on administrative leave pending review of Brimstone Yard incident. Unauthorized ritual engagement, public exposure of occult materials, and possible contamination. A second message appeared beneath it. Unofficial channel. Unknown sender. The choir has 5 doors in motion. Brimstone was only the quiet one. Come to Gannett Reach if you want the next name. Elara showed the message to Kael and Reeve. Kael sighed. I hate being right about sequels. Reeve studied the words. Gannett Reach is not in my jurisdiction. No, Elara said. He looked at her. She looked back. Kael groaned. Oh good, the chief is coming. That will make the paperwork triangular. Reeve finished his terrible drink. My mother left instructions for more than one kind of door. And Lantern says I have unused leave. Elara arched an eyebrow. Lantern gives leave. Lantern spoke from the observation blister speaker. I forge leave with exceptional accuracy. Reeve did not look surprised. Elara almost smiled. Below them, lightning moved through Caldera's storms like bright veins in dark glass. Above them, Brimstone Yard kept turning. A wounded station. A hidden coven. A sealed gate. A dead man's name still warm in the mouths of those who had spoken it. Elara touched the copper necklace beneath her coat. Voss. Vale. Marshal. Witch. Witness. None of the names fit cleanly. That was fine. Clean things rarely survived frontier space. Coda. The next door. Far from Brimstone Yard. Beyond the watched trade lanes. A courier buoy drifted beside a dead brown dwarf. It had no registry. No beacon. No heat signature detectable by ordinary patrols. Inside its memory core, a single recording played every 7 hours to no audience at all. A woman's voice. Calm. Old. Afraid. To whoever hears this, the choir has reached the second door. We thought the anchor was dead. We were wrong. The door is beneath Gannett Reach, behind the salvage chapel, where the first jump spine was buried. Do not send soldiers first. Do not send machines alone. Send someone who can hear names without turning them into orders. A pause. Then softer, send the Veiled Child, if she lives. The recording ended. The buoy rotated in silence. Behind it, space folded slightly where no ship had passed. Something listened from the dark between suns. Not free. Not yet, but awake.
Thank you for listening to Starshine Witches, The Obsidian Gate. If you enjoyed Elara's journey through Brimstone Yard and would like to hear more from this story, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Let me know if you want the next door to open. Until next time, thank you for listening.